Well, Lloyd, let's get stuck straight into Gold Coast for the latest of Footy on Nine's season previews, and we'll have a look at what they've brought in over the off-season. Brandon Ellis, some premiership experience, along with Hugh Greenwood from Adelaide. They've stopped the exodus with only losing Calamarchi, probably the only really talent they've lost there. The draftees, though, are the really interesting ones. They had picks number 1 and number 2, and you know a little bit about both of those boys.
Yeah, off the back of last year's draft with King, Lukosius and Rankin, I thought they were the biggest winners of last year's draft as well. So the last 2 years have been magnificent for them. 6 absolute quality players, and I thought how Flanders slipped to 11 was a great result for the Gold Coast Suns. But the first 2 players in Rowell and Anderson, I've seen them at close hand, coaching Haileybury v Carey Grammer the last 2 years. Rowell's the most dominant junior football that I've seen, and I think Rowell walks straight up and plays inside midfield for the Gold Coast Suns in round 1. Anderson will be on the wing also in round 1. So 2 absolute gems from the Gold Coast Suns.
You touched on a few of their other younger players there. Of course, they had the high draft picks over the last few years. One, Isaac Rankin, hasn't played because of injury. The others that have played have really impressed, the likes of King and Lukosius.
Yeah, hearing reports out of the Gold Coast that King is absolutely dominating Ben King. So any defender who's playing on him can hardly lay a glove on him. So he's got stronger physically. He's put on a fair bit of weight. He's quick off the mark. He's good below his knees. So all the talk has been about Max King at St Kilda, but Ben King is coming with a rush. And we saw him nearly win a game off his own boot last year against the Bombers late in the season. So he's the one I think to get most excited about at the Gold Coast Suns.
It seems like culturally they must be getting something right now because they've re-signed some of these young guys already. Yeah,
I think it's fantastic. The commitment, particularly the Ben King to come out. All the talk was he was going to go to St Kilda next year, but the confidence that would give the Gold Coast Suns is huge. And those players, those experienced players, I think they're good ones for the Gold Coast Suns. I think Brandon Ellis, I think he'd be like everyone will just be like a sponge off Ellis, to come off 2 premierships, plus a prelim, even Stewie Dew, he'd probably be his main assistant coach really. So what do they do at Richmond? And that's just priceless, having someone, that intellectual property you can steal from the Tigers, that's massive. And I think Hugh Greenwood, it's another big body to support those young midfielders. So I think they're 2 wonderful recruits.
You touched on Stewie Dew, and it seems like they're going to be he's going to be committed to the club for some time yet. What is the challenge, the biggest challenge for him? Because it still seems like they're a really young group.
Yeah, and he's a young coach, so I really felt for Stewie Dew last year. Sometimes I saw him walk into the press conferences after the game, and he looked absolutely rattled. So he needs some strong support around him. Again, I don't think they'll win too many games, despite how many great kids they've got. So I just think he needs to stick strong to a game style, stick to it, and really have a strong belief in what he's doing. But they need to win some games. They've lost 18 in a row to finish the season. They can't afford to lose the first 5 or 6 to start this year, otherwise he'll be under enormous pressure.
Well, particularly around the midfield, I guess, is where they haven't got the experience. How do you, I guess, fast track that when you've got so many high draft picks?
I think what they did with their recruiting, Brandon Ellis and Hugh Greenwood, to be in and around, and they've got Swallow, who came second in the best and fairest. Jared Witts won the best and fairest. So to add Rowell and Anderson, Will Brodie, who's thereabouts, and then you've got Rankin on the wings. They've got the players there. They just need the senior players to show them the way. I just think, and you need to win some games to build some belief. So that'll be critical again early in the season to get a few wins on the board.
A lot of doom and gloom about the club externally, particularly in Melbourne. But is the future bright? Can you see the light at the end of the tunnel for this group?
Well, I think those signings, were brilliant. For those guys to commit to the club, that's probably the biggest win they've had in their career. Despite probably apart from Gary Ablett winning a Brownlow medal, there they've had nothing really to celebrate. But again, this is a massive year for the Gold Coast Suns. They cannot, have a 2 or 3 win season. They have to win at least 5 or 6 and get some positivity moving forward for 2021.
Well, let's get stuck right into some real predictions that we're going to keep you to for the season. Who's the pressure on most, do you think, at the Gold Coast this year?
I'd say Stuart Dew. I think that I'm not going to name a player. I think Stewie Dew needs to show that he can coach. And I think it's hard, probably he might say I haven't had a chance because of the young talent I've had and all the injuries. But I think that, pressure's on Dew to show what they stand for as a footy club this year.
We've touched on so much of the young talent, but who do you think the biggest improver is going to be from that group?
Reports out of the Gold Coast is that Ben Ainsworth is the man that is dominating pre-season and that is set for a massive year, and he's been the star on the track for the Suns.
Now, the last one, I reckon I know what your answer is going to be, but where do we think Gold Coast is going to finish in 2020?
Yeah, unfortunately 18th, but it must be a better 18th than last year, not the way they limped to the end of the season, losing all those games in a row.
Well, Lloyd, thanks for your time, and for more on that, head to wideworldofsports.com.au or 9 Now for more of our previews.
Thank you.